Welcome to Lessons for Lisa. This is a series under the Notes from the Edge umbrella. On Notes from the Edge, I invite guests into conversations about trauma, psychology, identity, recovery, and what it means to be human. Here, it's just me. These aren't lectures. They're definitely not polished TED Talks. They're lessons I'm actually learning in real time. I'm a bit of an external processor. And sometimes I get the lessons right, sometimes I don't. But I think there's value in saying out loud the things that some of us are quietly trying to figure out. And today's lesson isn't one I've mastered, it is one I'm actively living. In addiction recovery, we talk about resentment as one of the most dangerous emotions we carry, not shame, resentment. And lately, I've realized I'm carrying more of it than I want to admit. So today's episode isn't me teaching from the mountaintop. It's me sitting somewhere on the trail saying, here's what I'm seeing from where I stand. Because if I'm honest, I'm tired, physically and emotionally. I'm tired of carrying people who aren't even in the room anymore. I'm tired of replaying conversations that ended years ago. I'm done winning arguments in my own head that nobody else even knows is happening. Maybe you've been there, maybe you're there now. But let's talk about it. Keeping a ledger. I've spent a lot of my life keeping a tab. Not just a financial one, but that too. But I'm talking more of an emotional one. Who called, who didn't, who apologized, who never did, who betrayed me, who stayed silent when they should have spoke up, who took advantage of my many kindnesses, who lied, who didn't defend me, who disappeared. If you've ever lived through enough disappointment, you become incredibly good at bookkeeping. Your safety system or survival system starts documenting everything. And it's not because we're petty. It's because we're trying to survive the heartbreak. Trauma changes the way we scan the world. Instead of asking what brings us peace, we ask, what could hurt me next? Let's avoid that. And it's not a character flaw, it is absolutely an adaptation. Our brain is just gathering evidence, safe, unsafe, predictable, unpredictable, friend, threat. So we become really good detectives, and then prosecutors, and then judges, and eventually, where I am in some arenas now, prisoners. Because the case never closes. And there's a weight to being right. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Some of my resentments are earned because people did betray me. They did lie. They did manipulate me. They did abandon me when I needed them most. Some of yours probably are too. And I think we do ourselves a disservice when we try to deny or pretend otherwise. Healing isn't about pretending bad things didn't happen. It begins by telling the truth about what did happen. But here's where I think I get stuck sometimes. Being right doesn't help me be free. I've spent years proving, at least to myself, why I had every reason to feel the way I felt. And maybe I did, but eventually I had to ask a harder question. And here's the one on my mind now. How long do I want to keep paying interest on someone else's debt? Because that's what resentment actually is. The event happened. Well, sometimes it didn't even just happen once, but it happened. And the resentment asks us to relive it over and over and over again. And the debt keeps collecting interest, and we are the only ones making payments. So why do we keep the tab? Why do we keep the score? I think it's because for me, somewhere deep inside of me, I stopped remembering. I'm I'm saying it was okay if I stop hurting. Maybe I'm letting them off the hook. Maybe you felt that too, but those aren't the same thing. It doesn't erase accountability. Moving forward isn't your approval of them, and peace isn't consent or permission. And letting go isn't saying what you did didn't matter. It's saying it matters too much for me to carry it forever, and that's really different because resentment feels like control. It gives us the illusion of control. As long as I keep replaying what happened, analyze every conversation, understand every motive, I'll never be blindsided again. Except that's never actually how life works. Pain doesn't make us omniscient. Sometimes terrible things happen anyway, and that's terrifying. And resentment whispers, if you think about it long enough, you're going to finally feel safe. And I have never found that to be true. I've only found it to be extremely exhausting. So here's the identity trap. Something else I've been wrestling with. Eventually, resentment stops being something we feel, it sometimes becomes who we are. We become that identity, the betrayed wife, the abandoned daughter, the misunderstood employee, the victim of the system, the person nobody chose. So notice something. Those things may all be true, but they aren't the whole story. Trauma has a way of shrinking our identity until our pain becomes our hello. It's nice to meet you. It becomes our introduction. At some point, I stopped telling my story and started telling my injuries, and there's a huge difference because one leaves room for growth, and the other one keeps me frozen in the chapter where everything fell apart. So here's what resentment is protecting because I don't think resentment is the problem. I think it's the bodyguard because underneath resentment, there's grief, there's heartbreak, fear, disappointment, loneliness, humiliation, shame. But see, resentment is the loudest emotion because it's the protector of the quieter ones. Anger feels stronger than grief. Certainty feels safer than vulnerability. Blame feels easier than heartbreak. So maybe instead of asking, how do I stop being resentful? We could all ask, what is my resentment trying so hard to protect me from? Because that's a whole different conversation. Forgiveness isn't reconciliation. And I hate when people throw the word forgiveness around like it's simple. It's not. And it isn't pretending and it isn't forgetting. It isn't trusting someone who has shown themselves to be unsafe. It isn't removing boundaries. Forgiveness and reconciliation are two completely different things. Reconciliation requires two healthy people. Forgiveness, and I only want to speak to self-forgiveness, only requires one willing heart. And sometimes it simply means I'm done carrying you and I'm done holding this. Not because they earned it, but because I deserve freedom. And here's the part that's been hitting me the hardest lately. Every minute I spend replaying yesterday is a minute I'm not building tomorrow. Every ounce of energy spent keeping score is energy I cannot invest in writing, creating, laughing, loving, learning, showing up for the people who actually deserve my attention. That's the hidden cost. That isn't just my own emotional suffering, it's missing out on opportunity. It's all the life resentment quietly steals while convincing me it's protecting me. What would I do today if I wasn't trying to collect emotional debts? Would it be amazing how differently I move through the day? Would I write more, create more, laugh more? Notice the birds singing. We have so many of them. When I drink my coffee while it's still hot and not lukewarm or cold, remember life is happening now and get out of tunnel vision, not stay back there. So here's today's lesson. Maybe resentment isn't the enemy. What if it's actually an invitation? An invitation to grieve what we lost, to strengthen boundaries we ignored, to finally tell ourselves the truth, and to stop confusing justice with endless suffering, because I'm not interested in becoming someone who never gets angry. That is never going to happen. Anger has its place, and it can be fuel for so much great creativity. And it tells us that something matters. I'm interested in becoming someone who isn't owned by the anger, who can remember without rehearsing it over and over again, and who can protect herself without starting to get, without hardening. I want to be somebody who can carry wisdom instead of weight, and I'm still learning this. Some days I still keep the tab, and some days I remember to close the ledger. And on the days I do, I feel just a little bit lighter. So here's to more of those. Thank you for spending time with me. I'm Lisa Lacey. These have been my lessons, still in progress. Until next time, stop performing your life and welcome to the edge.